Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Friday. The weekend is very nearly here. I hope you're having a good one wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Thank you, as always, for joining me. I really do appreciate it. And we've got plenty to get stuck into today. We're going to round up the latest Arsenal transfer news. It's all seemed to have kicked off, hasn't it, in the last 48 hours or so. So we're going to talk about that. There's fresh links to Eberechi Eze. As you all know, I'm a big fan. So that would certainly be one that would appeal to me. Going to talk about the move for Cristhian Mosquera as well, obviously, which has sort of progressed and was reported yesterday by Hand of Arsenal. Hat tip to him, fantastic reporting from him, breaking that story since been followed up, by the likes of David Ornstein, Fabrizio Romano, Sammy Mokbel, who I had on the Arsenal Press Pass show yesterday, and we were talking about there. If you haven't seen that show, normally it's just my Inside Arsenal Patreon members, but I did put yesterday's show out, so you can watch it here on YouTube as well. And if you like what you see, we do that every single week. And become an Inside Arsenal member, you get access to that show and to the Discord channel, to the regular giveaways. Congratulations to Luke Diamond, who I've just been in touch with. He is the lucky winner of this month's Arsenal shirt giveaway on my Patreon page. So congratulations to you, Luke, and the shirt will be winging its way to you very, very soon. And of course, as I said, if you're an Inside Arsenal member, sign up to the Patreon, you get access to all that sort of stuff and plenty more. Right, let's get stuck into it, shall we? Eberechi Eze, who, as I said at the start, you all know I'm a massive fan of, and I would love to see come to Arsenal. There's fresh reports of him and Arsenal doing the rounds this morning. We were speaking about this yesterday on the press pass, and we were talking to Sammy Mokbel about it, and the £68 million release clause. Well, it's a £60 million release clause plus an extra 8 as well. So basically it's a £68 million release clause. I think that the plus 8 can get paid at a later stage. But there has been fresh reports this morning of how the release clause could be paid rather than it being all up front. It could be done in sort of installments. I saw I think it was Team News and Ticks was reporting 20 million pound installments. Sammy on the press pass yesterday was talking about it because Eze, who turns 27 in a couple of days, actually, because of his age, because he's only got 2 years left on his deal, Palace would probably, Sammy was saying yesterday on the press pass, be open to kind of negotiating on that, because they kind of know that this is the last chance to make any sort of significant money on him, really, because of his age. Now, I love Eze. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he would be perfect for what Arsenal need. I think not just because I just think he's a little bit different. When you look at the options Arsenal have, and look, Martinelli's not going anywhere, well, unless someone comes in with a stupid bid. And I still think Martinelli's got loads to offer this Arsenal team. And he is that kind of direct touchline hugging left winger. So you have that option in the squad. You've already got Trossard in the squad. You bring someone like Eze in who can play on the left wing, so he can provide that threat from out there, but he can also come in central areas. And when you look at what Arsenal need to do to be able to sort of unlock the low blocks that they really struggle against, and they certainly struggled against last season, I just feel in that central areas, if you've got a little bit more creativity on the pitch, then you've got a better chance of doing that. And I think Eze can do that. He can score goals out of nothing. He can change games like that because of his individual quality. Scores goals, makes goals, is the exact age now that he needs to make a big, big move and really kick on and have a fantastic sort of latter stage of his career. I just think he'd be perfect. He's an Arsenal boy as well. Obviously came through the academy before being released at a very young age, so maybe he'd come back with a point to prove. Spurs are believed to be in the run-in for him as well. So yeah, I mean, I love the idea of Rodrigo and waiting for Rodrigo, but I love the idea of Eze in that. And they're two very different players, I think. But either of them this summer, should that happen, should one of them happen, I think it'd be a fine addition, would make this squad so strong. So I'd love to get your thoughts on it. We've been discussing it a bit on the Inside Arsenal Discord page. Certainly a lot of love for Eze on that page. It'd be interesting to get your views on it on here as well, whether you think this would be a good addition for Arsenal. And yeah, the latest reports are that they have been in contact now with Eze's side and are very much involved in the discussion when it comes to him. Also, their odds have shot down in the odds to sign Eberechi Eze. Now favourites to do it with the bookmakers. Not that means anything at all as well. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Eze. Would this be a good move? Let me know in the comments below. Right, moving on now to Cristhian Mosquera, and that one is absolutely sort of rapidly progressed in the last 24 hours or so. As I said, hand of Ozil, hat tip to him for the reporting on this one. Broke that story yesterday, and then it all moved forward very, very quickly. Arsenal making significant moves now in the transfer window. We've had to wait an awful long time, or it felt like we've had to wait a fairly long time for them to do that. But there's obviously significant moves happening now in the transfer window. We know Norgaard is pretty much done. Kepa just basically waiting an announcement on Kepa. And now Mosquera, those talks have really sort of moved on, and other clubs who are in the running for Mosquera believe that he will be signing for Arsenal, or at the moment the direction of things are going is he is going to sign for Arsenal. And I think he's a really interesting player in my very limited knowledge of him, I must say, but just sort of trying to learn stuff about him in the last 12 hours or so since the news broke. And watching him play, and speaking of a couple of people I know in Spain who have watched him, he's a very good on the ball, right-footed as well. So I kind of feel for the squad balance, that's exactly what Arsenal need when it comes to the defender. I know there's been lots of talk about Gerald Hato, but we've all sort of debated, is there a massive need for him? Unless, someone fairly significant leaves, like a Kivior leaves. But there's definitely need for a natural right-sided cover for Saliba, and Mosquera seems like he would bring that, but he has played on the left-hand side of defence as well. For Spain, for the under-21s, he's played there, so he can play right side, he can play left side. He seems very two-footed from what I've seen, and certainly speaking to people who have watched more of him than I have, far more than I have, they've said he is very comfortable with both feet. So likes to come out with the ball, physically looks quite imposing, very, very young, obviously turns 21 today. Happy birthday, Cristhian Mosquera. But looks like a really interesting addition. I've had a couple of sort of comments on it, and like Dan here's got in touch, says bringing in Mosquera as cover for Saliba is great. We'll have another defensive partnership. So this is the sort of obviously the main four of Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, and Lewis Skelly. But Dean points out we'll then have another defensive partnership of Calafiori, Kivior, Mosquera, and White. I mean, and that is really, really strong when you look at it options wise for Arsenal there, when you've got 8 really sort of significantly strong looking defenders who can cover each other. That's very, and we haven't even added Tomiyasu into that mix. I know it's hard to factor Tomiyasu in at the moment because of what's going on with him and the injury, but if he can get back around the turn of the year, if he does get himself back fit, I mean, you've got incredible options defensively if Mosquera comes in. It doesn't seem like it's going to be too expensive a deal, round about the sort of 17 million euro mark. And again, when you look at the work we've done, and we spoke about this yesterday on the Press Pass show, and Sammy was reporting on some of his information on it, sort of the economical deals that Arsenal have worked on in the last sort of week or so to get over the line could well be having, or the idea is that's going to have a significant effect on what they can do with the 2 big marquee signings that they're going to try and make this summer. So the striker and the winger. And you look at the money they've spent, it's not massive. They've saved a lot as well in terms of not splashing out loads on Juan Garcia and bringing in Kepa for 5 million on good wages, on decent wages. Nothing massive. Norgaard, not going to be massive wages. Significant savings in the salary if a major U-turn doesn't happen and Thomas Partey does leave at the end of his contract in a few days' time. You've got major sort of space on the wage bill there to really sort of push the boat out when it comes to the strikers. So that's good to see. Nick says, does the sudden interest in Mosquera signal an understanding that bringing in Hato may not be feasible this window? How would you compare Mosquera and Hato? Hato is a left-sided centre-back. Mosquera is a right-sided centre-back. Could both fill in at a fullback if needed. My hunch is that Mosquera is more fully developed than Hato, but Hato's potential is probably greater. Is that correct? I mean, that's tough for me to answer, really, sort of in terms of their potential, and because I'm not an expert when it comes to that sort of thing. But I do think I can't imagine if you sign a Mosquera, I think unless someone leaves, unless Kivior goes after Mosquera arrives, I can't see a world where Hato also arrives. There's just not space. As I've said, that sort of strong core group of 8 defenders with Tomiyasu kind of in the background as well, just in case he does come back. I don't think you can really move for Hato as well, unless Kivior leaves, and then maybe something like that happens. But thank you very much for getting in touch there, Nick. Adam says, if we get Zubamendi, Norgaard, Kepa, Mosquera, those are fantastic signing as long as we get the electric winger and a proper striker. And again, absolutely. I think this is good business, smart business, economical business, as I've said, from Arsenal. Even if I do have my reservations about Norgaard, which I spoke about yesterday. But it is smart at business, but it all depends, if this is if they don't get the things over the line for what they want for the major two attackers, then we're all going to sort of still look at this window as very, very underwhelming. These signings aren't going to excite everyone, and they're not going to improve the areas of the squad that we really know desperately need to be improved for Arsenal to really push forward next season. So this all revolves around now. You've got this done. It's smart. You've acted quickly way before pre-season begins. If we get the deals for Mosquera over the line and Norgaard, nothing happens there. But then all eyes is going to be on what they do in attack. It's absolutely crucial. That's how this window is going to be judged, and quite rightly so, because that's the area that desperately does need improving when it comes to Arsenal. Talking about pre-season and when it begins, we're not far away from it now. Interesting, Thomas Partey, as I said, he's over in Spain at the moment with a lot of the players who are on the sort of the pre-season training camp that they're going through. Not everyone's there, but a lot of them are. You've seen there, obviously, Thomas is with the group at the moment. He's still under contract with Arsenal, so it runs out at the end of this month. So he's still there. Gabriel's there, Saliba's there, Timber's there. I think there's others there as well. Members of the coaching staff are there. It's very relaxed. It's not official pre-season training yet. It's just a sort of getting them ready for the start of pre-season. But we're edging close now, not far away. They come back, or are due to come back to London Colney on the week beginning the 7th, I think it is. I don't think they come back on the 7th. I think it's more midweek. But that's when the group officially come back. I mean, a lot of players will be going there next week anyway, just to kind of do what's happening here to get ready for the start of pre-season. That's how players go now. But yeah, interesting. Thomas Partey there, obviously. A few days left of this contract at Arsenal. We wait to see official news whether he is going to be heading off now. Obviously, barring a pretty big U-turn, that is going to be happening. But he's certainly over there with the group at the moment before that contract does come to an end. Miles Lewis-Skelly, obviously, we spoke about this briefly on the press pass yesterday, but just wanted to touch on it on this regular show as well. Obviously he signed his new contract. It was confirmed yesterday. We knew he'd signed it anyway. But I love this quote from Miles yesterday on signing. It says, "I've embodied the value of Hale End and come through. I've still got a lot of years ahead of me. So if I can keep staying humble and being a good person, that's the most important thing for me. I know I've taken a lot of experience from the games about positive moments and the mistake I've made. I'm definitely more ready now for next season. I just want to keep learning and keep improving. I want a legacy. I want to win everything there is to win in the game. I want to win trophies on the biggest stages whilst being a person that's always learning and stays grounded," which is so important. I love that mindset. Everything about Miles Lewis-Skelly is just fantastic, I think. His quality on the pitch, the way he conducts himself on the pitch, the attitude he's got. The video that Arsenal posted yesterday, if you haven't seen it yet, I urge you to go over and see it, when he was with his gran, and sort of going on a bit of a tour of the Emirates and showing her the changing rooms and everything like that. And then everyone, Arsenal had got like all the sort of family members, people who are close to him. Per Mertesacker was there. Other members from the academy were there to surprise him as he walked out the tunnel. They were all there cheering and surprised him. And he was with his nan. And it was just really emotional. It was just lovely stuff. Such a grounded guy, such a grounded family, and just perfect representation of what an Arsenal player is and should be. I think he's fabulous. So yeah, love that quote from Miles Lewis-Skelly. Congratulations on his new contract. Right, let's talk about Christian Norgaard, shall we? I want to share what you guys have been saying. Obviously, I had my say on it yesterday, and I can see the merits of this signing, absolutely, and I hope it proves to be a brilliant one. I'm not convinced on it myself in terms of how it improves the squad, in terms of Jorginho going, Norgaard coming in. I'm not convinced, but lots of you are. So I wanted to share that as well. And so here's a sort of group of what some of you guys have been saying. Kukuri Smile says, "I think Norgaard fills a leadership hole and is a different profile that we needed, a real destroyer. Bringing on Norgaard and Marino late in games where we are pushing for a winner or protecting a lead could be very effective." Frizzle says, "I see your point on Norgaard, but if Arteta plays him, he's an upgrade. He was really hesitant to play Jorginho." And I think that is a really important point. I did mention it yesterday. As much as I love Jorginho and I thought he was a great player, I do admit I think he was underused last season by Arteta. And the fact that he was underused suggests that Arteta was beginning to lose a little bit of faith in him. We know that happens with Mikel, and maybe he didn't really have that confidence and trust in him towards the end of his stay at Arsenal. So if Norgaard plays more, because Jorginho only started 9 games last season, I felt he could have done more, could have had more substitute appearances as well. But if he gives Norgaard more minutes, then hopefully that's a good thing, because that will ease the workload on Declan Rice, on Zubimendi and all that sort of stuff. Tom says, "Norgaard is shrewd business. He is a leader and he'll be an asset on and off the pitch. He will hit the ground running when needed. No more Vieira or Lokongas, who cost 60 million if memory served me right between them. Norgaard, 10 million plus, Premier League ready. It's no-brainer. Michael says, excellent sign-in. Prem proven, has the same qualities as Partey and very consistent. It allows us to properly look for a younger DM profile or eventually paves the way for MLS. Agume at 23 won't want to be a backup after having a breakout season at Seville. And Stephen says, I think you're looking at the Norgaard transfer the wrong way. Improving the squad is not the right metric. Arsenal were forced to lose Jorginho and Partey through age, essentially. The best solution is maintaining the level of the squad for the best price possible. Jorginho is an excellent signing. Most signing won't be as good value for money, so Arsenal may be losing some quality at DM overall, but they're still maintaining a decent standard for minimal outlay. This will leave funds available on improving the level of the squad in other areas. And again, as I sort of mentioned earlier, if this business we've seen now, the economical business we've seen for Arsenal, does lead to what we think it's going to lead to, and it does allow the more sort of options to really attack those two signings and more money to sort of get them over the line, then, you know, I'm fine with that. Absolutely fine with that. Owen asks, hi Charles, do you think the sudden move activity in the window is because of how much early planning Arteta and Berta has done? No, I think what we've seen and the sort of sudden influx of deals, you know, potentially getting over the line from Arsenal, I just think people are back from holiday. And as much as that sounds like a stupid thing to say, I think it's really relevant. You know, Kepa, for example, it's been done for ages, but he's been on holiday. He's come back this week and Arsenal are getting it done. And I have got it done. I think Norgaard's the same. I think it's just, why would you be paying wages for a lot of players when they're on holiday? You're saving yourself a load of money when you sort of add that up. So I honestly think that is a big part of it. And I think the way that obviously Berta has worked and been sort of monitoring and getting as many deals sort of lined up as possible to then sort of pull the trigger on some of them. I think we've just seen that now. Arsenal have put themselves in a position where they've been sort of scouting out a lot of deals, and now they're ready to execute. This is a stage of the summer that we're seeing them do it, because it's just before pre-season gets underway. So I think it's just a timing thing. I'm not sure about the sort of early planning and all that sort of stuff. But I just think it's, the big relevancy is the time of the summer that we're at now, that we're seeing Arsenal really, really start to do their business. This one's from Mike on Zinchenko. And he says, my question is, do you think his lack of game time could be in any way due to the lack of firepower we were able to field last season due to the injuries? It felt to me like Arteta just had to ensure we were strong as possible defensively, because we couldn't rely on the attackers to kill games off when we were ahead, or even had doubts, or even just doubts when picking the team, knowing the game was likely to be frustrating offensively due to the lack of options. Zinchenko is ideal for when you dominate possession, create chances, and obviously put them away. But last season, we just weren't our clinical best. And I think this could have played a part in his lack of minutes. What are your thoughts? I think you've got a good point, Mike. I think it's fairly obvious that Mikel defensively lost trust in Zinchenko. You could see when it happened, when the real sort of change happened and Zinchenko's game time really started to go down. You could see the sort of matches leading up to that, you know, teams were targeting him. They were playing those long diagonals. They were getting in behind Zinchenko, and they're having quite a lot of success in it. And Arsenal started to concede goals in some silly ways in that. I think what was it, Aston Villa this season, when he sort of got done a couple of times, and it was just noticeable that the minutes really started to drop after a couple of high-profile sort of incidents that followed on from each other. So I think I think Arteta looked at that and just thought, defensively, I just can't deal with it. And it might well be, like you said, if Arsenal were winning games a lot more comfortably, if they were 2, 3, 4 goals up in games, then we probably would have seen more of Zinchenko, because he would have come on to give everyone a rest, and Arteta wouldn't have been worried about conceding defensively. So I think you've definitely got a point there, Mike, when you point that one out. And that's it from me today, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening. As always, I'll be back to do it all over again tomorrow. Anything you want me to discuss, let me know in the comments below, and I will pull them together as always. Until then, speak to you soon, everyone. Have a great Friday. Bye-bye.